In the 1970s, NASA launched Voyager 1, the space probe, which in 2012 became the first human-made object to leave the solar system and travelled into interstellar space. No, it goes on. In 1990, Voyager 1 was passing Saturn, and Carl Sagan asked them to turn it around and point it at Earth so that they could take a photograph. And when you see it, there's this very tiny point of light, which is Earth. And in 1994, he wrote a book about it called Pale Blue Dot. And this is an excerpt. Consider again that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines. Every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every supreme leader, every superstar, every saint and sinner in the history of our species live there, on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings. How eager they are to kill one another. How fervent their hatreds. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Our posturing, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbour life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. It underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the only home we've ever known. Pale Blue Dot.
The following narrative was written after a short sojourn in Haiti. Haiti, the place in which I saw the most abject, filthy poverty and the most obscene, filthy wealth. A bit like living in Leeds, really. It's called Where Am I? I'm sitting here, sweatingly uncomfortable, in this pitilessly perspirational supersonic sardine can. All around, echoes of Creole sound across the rich, black-faced ivory grins. Inner me cries for cool, and presently the orderly exit begins. I am not prepared for the hot shock of the Port-au-Prince tarmac, a calorific cacophony of diesel rumble and dusty coughs welcome me to Central America. The terminal building is aptly named. My transfer to Pétionville is one of decaying splendour. That is, I am the passenger in a rusty but still official UN Jeep. Rounding a rutted bend, I catch sight of a local housewife doing the weekly wash under the rocking palms, hands plunged into the oily suds, wearing naught but a sort of floral curtain wrapped around her waist, her pendulous pectorals swaying to the rhythm of a Haitian rub-a-dub-dub, content with her lot and unaware of the white voyeur. The road varies from crumbling tarmacadam to Cartwright, first class, to just track, and then Pétionville springs from the greenery. Melting on the balcony, I am able to observe Haitian society, shuffling beggars in rags, a sort of humanoid snail, moving slowly and carrying their houses on their backs, for those rags are all they possess. Remnants of motor cars scrape along, once showroom models, now reduced to eyeless, burnt-out cases. And then, the chatter of happy young voices as a skipping line of carefree schoolgirls bounces by, each one as to the next, in the classily cut uniform of their college for the privileged, giving an impression of Pétionville come Harrow and Eton to the street panorama. More contrast as the glimmering, snarling radiator grille of a limousine spits the dazzle back at the sun, its owner's heavily laden, jewel-infested fingers impatiently tapping on a walnut dash. Where am I? Courageously, I visit the market. The stamped earth volleys and alleys between the stalls form conduits for the viscous human liquor that flows on and out. Elbowed along in the stream, I resemble a sugar cube tumbling through a coal tip. No one takes much notice until I am greeted by a man sporting a bow tie. It sets off his lime green braces beautifully and looks as if, well, at any moment he might take off. It so mimics the variegated butterflies that inhabit the fat air of this place. Am I interested in good paintings, he tutoiles me. Bow tie and braces soon perceives my Swiss accent. I feel betrayed. I decline the offer of Haitian masters. The mountain excursion is a contrast. Kenskoff, perches high in the mists of this cool hilly region and the island's centre. The air here is translucent with drifting clouds, aided by cigar smoke, for, as Mr. Squeers once put it, here's richness. The spiral ride back to town ends in the wetness of Pétionville after a welcome shower. Puddles formed in the numerous street craters are used by the numerous street residents as facilities for bathing. Cleanliness is next to godliness, I hear myself mutter. Their God being Christianity with a voodoo admixture. My last evening is spent in Port-au-Prince. Dinner at the Olufsen, a restaurant once used in the making of some film or other. Wooden verandas in the Louisiana style, huge wafting fans, innumerable doors that lead arcanely to diverse places, wicker chairs that creak with every thought, cushions whose colours have known more vivid days. There is a noisy silence in this place, and it commandeers my imagination. Sydney Greenstreet and Peter Lorry suddenly materialise by the bar. The former sneers at us diners and sucks on his panatella. He casts a denigrating glance at Lorry, and purring like a hungry alley-cat orders, "Let me do the talking." Green Street fixes on my table, and he and the diminutive German start to glide my way. My exotic fish supper is saved, however, when Humphrey Bogart appears by an aspidestra, draws on his king size between his curled lips, and envelops the two hoods in a cloud of smoke that, in the end, proves so deadly to Bogey. "Played again, Sam," I murmur. Where am I? It is then that I see the real gangster. About 14 years old, lolling by the jukebox. A fat black boy in designer jeans, his Mickey Mouse t-shirt unmatching violently his baseball cap, worn in reverse, making him look like a pop art coal merchant, or perhaps a psychedelic version of Alfred Doolittle. His erstwhile vacuous gaze becomes animated as he notices my attention. He gives me a look of scorn mixed with envy. He, wealthy, but in a cage. I, comparatively unwealthy, but soon to be off this baking Caribbean pimple. I feel like rendering a chorus of "Goodbye Little Yellow Bird." As I leave the Olafsons' whirring verandas, then I stroll towards the fountains in Port-au-Prince's Government Square. Then the hot tarmac sizzles outside the 120 decibel departure hall. The sardine can awaits its catch. Safety instructions in English, then in French, then in Creole. Where am I? On their way back to more equitable climate.